Hi. As some of you may know, I'm John Zimkus, the Education Director and Historian here at the Harmon Museum, operated by the Warren County Historical Society. It's been over 6 months since we've had a lunch and learn, and I know a lot of you have missed it, and we miss seeing you be here. So we're trying to do something new today. It's a virtual lunch and learn, or maybe it's a munch and learn, or coffee and learn, or just sitting and learning. And so hopefully it is something you'll enjoy. Now, the lunch and learns were one way we were able to make some money here at the Harmon Museum. But if there is a donation list, and if you can give $5 or something, or whatever amount you'd like, we appreciate that. Today, we have a very interesting lunch and learn for you. It's the equine sculpting of Lynda Sappington. Lynda lives here in Warren County. She is self-taught and she is very talented. I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. Thank you for being here, Lynda.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you grew up around horses, right?
I've had horses since I was 9.
So you knew the muscularity of the horse and what have you. And so that helped a great deal, I'm sure.
Yeah, it does. And my daughter was in horse bowl in 4-H, and in horse bowl, the kids learn all the parts of the horse with the Latin names, so they know the Latin names of all the different bones, and that helped me learn. This was way before I started sculpting. She was 10, 11, 12 when she did that, and she's now 45, she'll be 46 soon. I learned a lot from that was a big help in understanding where the bones are, how they work, how the shoulder blade, this is the shoulder blade, glides under the skin, what happens in the elbow to push it back and move it forward, and how all the pieces are joined together and how they work. Understanding the bones gives you a better understanding of movement in general. And then one of my workshops I took was from an equine vet who's also a sculptor, and she had a life-size, had a real horse skeleton in the workshop, and she went over all the bones and explained a lot of stuff, and that helped put a more finesse on my knowledge of that.
You're self-taught. Did you have any formal art education?
I took painting lessons when I was a kid, and I took art classes in school, but I'm a three-dimensional thinker, and I never could draw the way things really looked because I had trouble with proportions and stuff. And teachers were all painters, so they didn't understand how a three-dimensional mind works. And I didn't know that was my problem at the time. But when my son was 13 and I was 43, I was part of an art co-op because I did stained glass panels about yay big. And I had my panels in this art co-op, and I took him up there for a clay class. And I thought the teacher was actually a potter, and turned out she was a trained sculptor from the Dayton Art Institute. And she said, why don't I stay and play, because it's such a long drive. So me and all the children are in this clay class, and she taught me how to build armatures, and we worked with water-based clay that has to be fired in a kiln. And I made cartoony baby dragons because I didn't think I could make a realistic-looking horse. Started out as a horse, and I squished the face and made it into a cute little dragon. And then I finally did make my first horse that was realistic, and lady saw it, and she was a friend of my daughter's, and she saw me somewhere, and she grabs my lapels of my jacket and says, I want your first bronze. And so the stallion and I traded labor, and I wound up, I got her to pay for the cost because I wasn't sure I could do a portrait or a realistic horse, and I just didn't want to take her money unfairly. So I wound up with a beautiful foal, a beautiful Bitsy baby whose bronzes are around the corner. And she wound up with a bronze, and she's just thrilled to death with it. And we both thought we got the better end of the deal. So that's how I got started as a professional. I have taken some workshops from the American Academy of Equine Art down in Lexington, Kentucky, and I've taken a patina workshop out in California, and 2 figurative, which is human sculpture workshops, one with Tuck Langland I took out in Arizona, and one with Philippe Ferraud in New York State. And I'm still not as great at figurative sculpture as I'd like to be, but I don't do a lot of people, and they have improved a great deal, so that one of my daughter looks just like her, so I'm getting there.
Now, from your learn as you go background here, did you ever do something and then find out there's a better way to do that, but you were still successful?
I found out there are different ways to do it, but in the workshops I took from trained sculptors, they wanted me to use my tools more and keep my hands out of the clay. Well, I can't work that way because I need to feel the horse. And so I take what I can from each workshop and then do it my way with whatever improvements I could get from whoever I was learning from. So it just, this piece, I took a workshop with a lady named Karen Casper, and she does Arabs, and so I learned a lot from that. And she always gives everybody in class a little paring knife, a kitchen paring knife. And so for her class, I used a kitchen paring knife. I still have it, but I never use it. And there are other people who had particular ways of doing this and that. And I try it, and if it works, I keep it. If it doesn't work, I go back to my way. So being self-taught is like that.
What's the largest piece you've ever done?
Life size, well, monumental. It was supposed to be life size, and the enlarging place, I had it digitally enlarged this size piece is called a maquette, if you're going to do an enlarged piece. So you send this to a place called a digital enlargement place if you don't have the facilities or education to be able to point it up yourself. Pointing up is where you have a lever that you have a pointer, and there's a fulcrum, and you put it on this sculpture, and then wherever it is on the big sculpture, you sculpt them to match. That's how you do pointing up. I couldn't do that, and didn't really want to, and so I sent it to a digital enlargement place, and they scanned it with a computer, and they cut it out of styrofoam, and then I had to re-detail the styrofoam, and then paint clay on it, and then they had a team of 7 educated sculptors with master's degrees who were there helping self-taught me finish this piece, and I had to resculpt all the hair because the volume of hair wasn't big enough when they enlarged it that big. But an interesting thing is when they enlarged it, the only part of the horse that wasn't completely accurate was that one ear wasn't straight, it was off at an angle like that. So I sliced the styrofoam off and put it back where I wanted it and glued it in place, and done. I loved that. That was so much fun. So I spent 9 days working on that, and then it got cut into pieces and taken to the foundry because that was out in Oregon where my foundry is.
So how long have you been associated with this foundry now?
Oh, gee. Probably maybe 15 years, something like that.
So they know your work, and they know
Yes.
what to expect, and they
Yeah.
know the kind of things you like to have.
Yeah, I went to foundries where my husband used to travel a lot with his business, and sometimes he'd take me with him. And wherever we were, if there was a foundry there, I would tour it. And I learned a lot that way, and I tried foundries in New York State. The one that did the Da Vinci giant horse, it's 24 feet high. Look it up if you haven't seen it. And you can see it at the Frederick Meyer Park in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's 24 feet high, and it's Da Vinci designed it, and then they went to war, and all the bronze wound up being in cannon, so it never got built. So anyway, it's a very interesting thing to see. I took one piece there, and I took a piece to Louisville, to a foundry there, and I was using one in Indianapolis when I started out. And, so I've tried a bunch of different places, and then my husband and I are also collectors, and we were in a gallery that we like in San Diego, and they were happened to have one of those weekends where they have the artists come in, and we were just out there on a business trip and happened to be there. And there was an eagle, a flying eagle bronze that he's flying, and there are flying squirrels flying away underneath him. And my husband was just staring at it. He loves eagles. And I said, you should buy that. And he's like, eh. And this big tall man comes over. My husband's 6'1". This huge tall man comes over, drapes his arm around my husband's shoulder and says, I love you, man. And that was Steve Parks that owns the foundry. And that was his sculpture. He sculpted it. And so we chatted and got to know each other. And my husband bought that bronze. We still have it. And his work is similar enough to mine that if mine were to get damaged, I know he can fix it, unless it's tiny, tiny detail on a horse's face. But as far as the body goes, I know he can fix it if something were to happen. So I'm happy there. They took good care of me.
Now, your work, is it in various places in the country right now?
It's around the world.
Okay, tell us some of the places where your work has been sent.
I've sold several places in Australia, New Zealand. My book, Sculpting 101, a primer for the self-taught artist. And whenever I learn something, I make a web page for myself to remind me what I learned and how I did it. And I'll put my how-to pictures on there. And I'll write descriptions and stuff to remind me of how I did it. And it evolved into a book. And then when I made the carriage, there were no books on how to make a carriage, and I had to figure it out. I added a chapter on building a carriage and also on shipping, because that shipping was pretty darn complicated. So all the little bitty pieces, I wound up having to sew them to a thin piece of styrofoam so that they would not get damaged in shipping. They all start the same way, with a plumbing pipe and a T, and I have this as two short pipes with a divider for a reason, because I will unscrew him at some point and turn him upside down and screw another T onto the bottom and hang him from a chain from my ceiling in my studio so that I can work on his underneath parts and look at him from other angles. So this wire goes through this T and comes to his end, to his nose, and this wire comes through to this other leg, and this one comes through to here. A raised leg needs to be twisted. This is aluminum wire, and I put two wires together and twist them to make them strong. When I get to doing this leg, I will pull this out straight and take some pliers and twist it. So these toothpicks are sticking in here to keep the wires from wiggling, so that this is all solid now, because I've shoved toothpicks in from both ends. And I use toothpicks with a flat head so they don't hurt my fingers. And then normally I will take nippers and cut off all these pointy ends so they won't poke me. And then I'll take clay and mash it in there to protect my fingers, as well as being part of the horse. This clay here is to protect my fingers from the sharp end of the wire. This clay here shows the back end where the horse's body ends. So I'm sculpting my daughter's horse, Dream. This is Absolute Dream. I think I already told you about him, but that's the pose I'm doing. And so I've just started. Normally I would have clay on more parts of him, but I left the back half uncovered so you can see it. One of my tricks is that I will blow up a picture the size that I wanted, and it may take 4 pictures if it's going to be a really big piece, or like Anton over there took 4 pictures. And I'll park the picture behind the horse and see if it's about the right size and shape. And I also take measurements with my calipers. I also have calipers that are rounded, so that I know, see, this being kind of a 3/4 picture, it's not a good picture to take measurements off of, but that's the pose picture. And then for details, this is the one I actually hold up behind him to see if he's the right size. But for details, I have, there's the picture with his curly eyelashes. And this one shows how his ears set into his head. Some horses have a bulb on the back of their ears and some don't. And Dreamy's one of those that doesn't have it. This shows me the inside muscling of his back legs. And this shows me the width of his chest. He's only 6 years old, so he's still growing. And this is that's a picture of my daughter's other horse that got stuck on there. Got tape on it and got stuck. And then this is the shape of the bones around his eye, so that I can get all of that accurate. And this is all I need now. I used to take, like back in the film days, I used to take maybe 2 rolls of pictures to get all the details. And then as I've learned, I don't need all those pictures anymore. I know from proportions that what I've got will work.
Some of your tools are sculpting tools, but some of them are not. What do you use when you make a piece like this?
A lot of it's my fingers, which people who are, since I'm self-taught, people who have been to school for sculpting are like, you're using your fingers. But I do use my fingers because I learned to sculpt because of all the years I've groomed horses. I've had horses since I was 9. And so I do a lot of feeling. But I have these 2 dental tools, and I have others. But these are my favorites. These are used by your dentist when he's building you a crown for mold making or cleaning or making the shape of the tooth. I haven't actually seen what they've done with them, but they don't use them to clean your teeth. These are for making crowns and stuff. And then this is a real sculptor's tool. This is called a ribbon tool. Has smooth wire, and I use this a lot. This one is a rake tool because it has teeth. I don't know if you can see it, but there are teeth in that edge. But this is for use on a bigger sculpture. I brought this because of the wooden part of it, because you got to beat the clay. So I beat the horse. I don't really beat real live horses, but I beat this horse to compress the clay so that it won't wind up with dips in it when they cast the bronze. So the clay needs to be really well compacted. Some people will actually build styrofoam or aluminum on their armature before they put the clay on to save clay, but I have never been able to get it as firm and secure with that kind of underneath structure. So I know all clay. And my foundry knows it's all clay, and they actually prefer that. So I like to keep the foundry happy.
Now, your work has been cast in bronze, cold cast porcelain, and resin.
Mm-hmm.
But the basic thing you're doing right now wouldn't change, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you were interrupted, how long a process would it be?
Normally it takes me about 3 months to do a full-bodied horse, a naked horse, no rider, no tack. Riders and tack make it take a lot longer. If I have a commission, then that comes before everything else. I'm not taking very many commissions anymore because I'm getting old. I'm 70 now, but when I do them, those are my focus, and I will work 2 to 4 hours a day on it every day. And 2 to 4 hours is about all my muscles can take, because this is heavy work. I'm using a lot of pressure. And when I had to do the carriage piece, they commissioned it in April, and it had to be presented as a trophy in October. And that I normally take 3 months just to do a horse, and I had to figure out how to do a carriage. So I was working 6 and 8 hours a day, and I wound up with arms like Popeye, so my chiropractor said. And my chiropractor and my body worker lady who did my muscular myofascial massage stuff both said that I was, my arms were harder and stronger than a firefighter's at that point. And I don't want to go there again.
How long would the foundry have the piece?
The foundry takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on their schedule, because they also do a lot of life sizes. The last time I sent a piece to be cast, they were in the process of doing a monumental size whale, bigger than a life-size whale, on its tail. It was a killer whale. And I've forgotten how big it might have been life-size. But it was a humongous thing. They couldn't put it together inside the buildings. They had to weld it outside the buildings. So it's very interesting to drive around out west and see sculptures on flatbed trailers being hauled all over the place. My life size, when it came to Wisconsin, where the first one was mounted, the second one was mounted in Ohio on a private farm. The horse is standing there on a flatbed trailer, all exposed to everybody. And he broke down on the side of the road at one point, 200 miles from the farm where he was going to deliver it in Wisconsin. And I told him, "Don't worry, my customer will come and get it. Come and get you." He came and got the bronze, and he sent somebody to help the guy with the horse, with the truck. But they haul all kinds of things. And then when I was doing there's a show in Loveland, Colorado called the Loveland Sculpture Invitational, and watching them set up is a hoot because a lot of people bring life-size bronzes. And here I am with my table of tabletop size pieces before I'd have done the big one. And somebody had brought a life-size, no, it was bigger than life. It had a 10-foot wingspan, I think, 10 or 12. But it was an eagle, like this. And the guy with the crane picks it up and he flew it around over the park before he put it where it was supposed to go. And everyone's like, you know. But yeah, driving around out west and seeing strange things on trailers is really fun. Pardon me, I've got allergies, so I need a cough drop.
Now you do other things besides horses too.
Yeah, somebody asked me one time if I could do a dragon, and I said, sure. And it was a bioengineered dragon that he wanted, so I did a dragon with a body like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was actually quite fun. And then somebody else said, "Can you do a cougar?" And oh, of course I can. I had no idea how to do a cougar. So I put him up on this rock, and there was so much negative space there, I decided to add a chipmunk down there. It's called In the Wind because I have a peaceable kingdom. Nobody eats my horses or anything else I make. And so the cat has a full tummy, the chipmunk's cheeks are full, and they're both looking off in the same direction because something's in the wind. And the cat is just ignoring the chipmunk, and the chipmunk is just saying, "Stay up there, I'm fine." So yeah, but that was fun. But yeah, I will do other things. Somebody asked me once about doing an airplane. I don't think I could do mechanical things. Too many straight lines required, I think.
Lynda, is there anything else you'd like to tell our Lunch and Learn audience?
Don't ever think you can't do something. I always collected figurines. I had 300 horses in my collection at one point, and they were not all Breyers. By the way, Breyer did try to hire me, and I said no, because they were going to require me to make them a certain size, and I'd rather have my freedom. Because I let the piece tell me what size it wants to be. I don't say, okay, you're going to be this many inches tall. No, I put the clay on and discuss things with the horse, and we go from there. But don't ever let somebody tell you can't do something. I started sculpting when I was 43. I was a professional at 46, and I've been in business ever since. And I have made trophies that are in Canada and all over the U.S. And I've got art in corporate collections. You know, it's follow your heart. If you think you can do something, just do it.
Now, can people buy your work?
Oh, please buy my work.
And how do they get in contact with you then?
Well, go to my website, thesculptedhorse.com. My email is Lynda, Lynda, at thesculptedhorse.com. And if you just put Lynda Sappington in the search engine, you'll find me all over the internet, because I have well advertised stuff.
Well, thank you so much, Lynda. This was great. Thank you for being our first virtual Lunch and Learn.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed Lynda and her demonstration. I think she was pretty fascinating. Now, our next Lunch and Learn, which should be ready by mid-October, will be Halloween in America. Lynda Martin has been collecting Halloween artifacts for over 20 years and has over 1,000. And as you know, Halloween is one of the most popular holidays in America. And so she'll be sharing this with us and with you once again in a virtual lunch and learn. Now, remember that if you would like to donate something to help us continue to operate and provide these things, there is a check-off list, or if you have your own particular amount in mind, we'd appreciate that too. Also, if you have certain questions that you would like answered, lunch and learn questions, let us know. If you want to know that Fort Ancient was in 1890 the first state park in the entire Ohio, and what the circumstances that were, or did you know that Annie Oakley once provided game for what is now the Golden Lamb in the 1870s, or something of that nature? Ask us and we'll try and answer it for you and have it at our next Lunch and Learn. So thanks again for watching, and hope to see you next month.